Welcome to the Cookbook, where you'll learn about the real recipes behind building a business. Entrepreneurship doesn't look the same for everyone, and neither does success. You'll hear from entrepreneurs of all kinds, tech founders, coaches, creatives, and spiritual entrepreneurs. People who've taken very different paths and learned powerful lessons along the way. We talk about the wins, the missteps, and the moments who shaped who they are today. I'm Iris Goldfeder, and this is the Cookbook. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and holy crap, do we have a show for you today. Okay, so I'm so excited about this because we're talking about AI, but we're talking about AI with how I use it. Kofi is actually joining us today. What? And then, do you remember Psychic Nate? So Psychic Nate was on a couple years ago. And we talked all things psychic. Well, now we're going to talk how he uses AI in his realm, literally his realm. So hold on to your seats, and I'm going to ask you to do one thing besides ignore the dog. The one thing I'm going to ask you to do is go to YouTube and download this. Because if you go to YouTube and you download it, the more downloads that we get, the better for us it is. So I'm not going to ask you to do 10 things. I'm going to ask you to do the one thing. Just go download, and you can subscribe too, but just download. Okay, so without further ado, here's the Three Musketeers. Hey guys.
Hello.
This is like so awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start because I don't even remember how did this come about, that we were talking about it, and then we were like, oh yeah, we're going to do this. Oh, because okay, I had an idea. And then I was like, okay, Nate and Kofi and I need to meet because we all use AI differently, but similarly. Yeah, right? And so I said, hey, let's have a meeting and see, maybe we'll do a podcast on this. And what I love about this podcast, and I truly, people are like, why are you doing this? Because I know for a fact that there's somebody out there, one person even, that's going to hear what we're talking about today, and they're going to use it, and it's going to make a difference. And that's why I do this, is because I know that it's going to make a difference. And holy crap, what more of a difference? We have three modalities. Well, we have Nate with his, modality, and he's, he's a psychic, he's a spiritualist. He'll get into all the things that he does. He's amazing. He's my psychic. I usually don't make a move without him. And then Kofi, who is our producer extraordinaire, who makes the cookbook look as good and sound as good as it does. And he also has his own thing, Social Flyway. So we each have our own thing. And AI has really started to take root. And I think it's how we use it. So I'm doing a talk in 2 weeks from Tuesday. Well, by now it'll have been done, on scalable storytelling, right? On how to use AI ethically across your business to have a consistent message. So your story, everybody, talks the same way. You have the same message as a through line for your business. So that's one way that I'm using it in the marketing realm. And what I'm finding is, Nate, you use it to create a freaking avatar. I mean, Kofi, so did you, but let's talk about the things because, well, introduce yourself first.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. Can you tell I'm excited? Okay, go ahead.
I'm Nate. I'm a psychic and medium. What I do is exactly what Iris said. I do psychic readings for people to help them in their life. I do work with my cards, my energies, the messages that I receive, either through clairvoyance, clairaudience, and as an empath to guide them in what I see for their future. That's what I do. Since Iris mentioned YouTube, I'm also on YouTube. I have a channel called The Third Wish. And in that channel, I actually do predictions for current events and the world. So nothing at the individual level, but what I do see happening over the next few years. And maybe at the end of the show, I can give you a few things that I see over the next, 15, 20, 50 years that are really going to blow your mind. And so I have been using personally for my business. I'm a one person business. So I do use AI. I do use AI in a number of ways just for, as management of a small business because yes, I am a psychic, but I also need to manage my business. Also, it appears, you can hear it from my accent, that I was not born in the US. I'm American, but I'm French American. And so when I write documents or when I write a book, like I wrote this book, then I am using AI to help myself because this is not my first language. And so I wrote the book with my English, but AI helped me complete the book. Okay.
Yes.
One thing. Yes.
One of the giveaways, and I want to show you something because what I found interesting with it is AI uses a lot of emojis. And when I opened it up and I saw your thing, I remember looking at it and being like, oh, there's emojis, right? Absolutely. And I texted you. I was like, did you use AI?
Yes.
But I think the thing is too, it's your content. It's
my content that has been corrected. There have been a form of rewrite from AI to correct grammatical errors and things like that. So I feel like, this is actually a very good example. I'm going to talk about this project as an example. This is a deck of cards that I created. It's called the Voices of the Whale Oracles. And I just wanted to create an oracle that has a theme of whales. You can actually see some of those cards here.
They're beautiful. I mean, they're stunning.
So this is where I drew the line. I didn't want to compromise on the artwork. So the artwork is done from an artist in Italy that I paid to do this artwork. Yes, I could have used AI, but this is part of your intuition. This is part of the connection with the cards. And so I actually use I didn't want to compromise. I didn't want this to be an AI deck. Okay. I created the cards. I am the creator of this deck. And I use simply AI for the guidebook because I wanted to do an actual book. And this is where I wrote basically all the messages that I downloaded from my intuition with those cards. And AI just reformatted it into something that's written. I feel better, especially since this is not my first language. So I drew the line, right? I drew the line. The cards, which is part of the most intuitive process, and the ideas that stayed in a very, artisan or craftsmanship kind of way. But the grammar and the writing, yes, I used AI for that. Ayoko said that, I created a marketing campaign to sell those cards, and I used AI to brainstorm how I could do a marketing campaign. You know, so
you could always call me too, and I'll help you. You know that. But.
I'm not using AI in my own skill set, my craft. Why people come in, like Iris said, she's a client. Well, obviously,
you can sit there.
I'm not using
if you do a reading, you're not going to be like, wait a minute, let me ask Claude. Here's a card. I mean, no, you pull the cards real time. Like you do everything, and he is fucking accurate. What I will tell you is, so Hayden introduced us, and Hayden owns this amazing executive assistant agency. And I haven't spoken to her in a couple of years, which is terrible, but she's just phenomenal. And she introduced Nate and I. And I was so skeptical. I was like, okay, whatever. And we met the first time, and he said all these things were going to happen. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And literally 2 days later, the thing happened. And I was like, oh my God, this happened. Well, now what happens, which is really interesting, you're right about all the crap, which is a little frustrating, but, something that he'll say, it may not happen the next day. It may not happen, the next week, but like within that month, it happens. And I'll be sitting there and I'll look at Heather and be like, oh, this was the thing that he was talking about, because our timeline is way different than their timeline, and you work on their timeline. You just, do the thing. But what I think is really, really interesting is, you were talking about having this like avatar, because you ain't cheap.
No.
I know, I get whatever, but for the normal person, what you charge isn't cheap, and you are worth every, if not more, like every penny, right? We don't make pennies anymore, every nickel. So, and now you've come up with a way to where people that don't have that money.
So yes, I created a free version of myself, literally. So what I've done, it's very simple. It is done via ChatGPT, and you can create a specific version for yourself. And I downloaded 10 hours of readings, private readings, obviously no names, full confidentiality, but what are the cards, what are what I said. And basically, AI has picked up on what do I say when I get this combination of cards, how I deliver a message, the kind of words I use, etc., etc. And so people can go on and ask a question and get an answer, a 3-card reading. Obviously, this is not the same of having the reading with me, but this is free. Since I know you're interested a little bit by marketing, I also have my links in the script. So it basically says, here is your reading. If you want to know more, click here. And then they're redirected to my page.
Yep.
And so the interesting thing is I caught myself a couple of days ago asking my avatar for a reading for myself, which is
I want to
very
see that.
interesting. So, but it is available. If you have the ability to put links under this video, I'll be happy to share it. But it is interesting, you being a marketing person, understanding that maybe it gives a taste of what a reading looks like, the kind of words I use, the kind of how I deliver, because a reading, when you go get a reading to a psychic or card reader, half of the process is the information that you get, but the other half is how it's been delivered to you. It's very important.
So I have to tell you something funny. So, and I did tell you this. So like 2 years ago, I'll tell you guys something funny. 2 years ago, we have a restaurant in town, Bistro 501, and they were doing this like Halloween thing. Kofi, you know them, right? So they had a card reader there, and everyone was like, "Oh, get your cards read." And I'm like, "I got the best guy ever. I don't need to do that." I'm getting like goosebumps talking about it. And they were like, "No." So I was like, "Okay, fine." I think she was like $15 or whatever. So I sit down and she does this reading similar to how you do it, but she didn't ask me questions. She just like laid all the cards out and started reading everything to me. So I felt like I was in an episode of like Ghost with like Whoopi Goldberg, with the thing. And a couple of things she was accurate on, but the whole time I was sitting there, I was like, this isn't how I'm used to it being done. Because you are very empathetic. And because of that, in your delivery, like there'll be times where I remember for like about 8 months, it was like all good. Everything was good. You're like, oh, this is great. And then you were like, I'm not seeing it. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like all my readings are always good. What the hell are you talking about here? And the way that you delivered it didn't freak me out. It was just like, you had a good run. Now you're going to have a bumpy run, and I did. Like it was fucking accurate, which was frustrating, but
Well, I think it talks about the emotional intelligence that AI doesn't have. If we're talking about AI,
Which
AI
was what we were
doesn't
talking.
really
Yes.
have this emotional intelligence or intuition. And so if you give AI tarot cards, of course, AI can access tarot cards and the book meaning of each tarot cards and do a random draw of 3 cards. You're going to get just that.
Right.
But that's, I'm not saying it's bad, but we're very far from a connection with spirits. I mean, I believe, because I live this every single day, that we live in a physical world that is not just physical. There are spiritual energies around us. There's quantum physics, and one day the physical world and the spiritual world will be connected in a way that it's just like we don't understand it today. We don't have the knowledge, but it's part of the same thing. And so you're only getting really with AI just a computer-based reading, which is totally different from a reading from a spiritual reading.
As far as the spiritual and the physical, connecting, we already have, right, in the beginning. And I think that we lost that connection. And now It's just a matter of getting back to what we lost, but in a way that people can now consume it. Because back in the day, it was given. If you were a mystic, you were a mystic. I mean, that was the first, before, that's what Judaism, which was the first religion, was based on, was mysticism, right? The Kabbalah. Am I going to get that wrong?
Yes. Also, if you go to Native Americans, Native Indians, in the tribe, you had a reader. You were asking questions. All the Greeks had a seer. It's just always been there, even in the Catholic Church. There's a lot of those connections. Now it's strange. It's been in some ways more accepted and in some ways less accepted. It's kind of being a little bit, it's like there's communities who are very accepting and there are communities who are not, as we're becoming very divided just politically and in many other ways. And so that divide is also being reflected in our relation with spirituality, but also AI. Interesting enough, I come across people that are very in favor and very against.
Right. And what's really interesting, though, is ever since you and I started working together and I started really, practicing my spirituality.
Yes.
99.9% of the people that I met were quote unquote woo, right? And the ones that weren't were not adverse to it. Like there was never if anything, there was always this like curiosity. So, and we know what I think my purpose is. I'm not going to get into this on here, but, I kind of look at, where everything was 10 years ago and where it is now. And people talking about the fifth dimension and not freaking out about it, like knowing that it's a thing, right? That, there are these other realms and, so I do think that the spirituality or the spiritual and the physical are already connected. It's just really recognizing that. But Kofi, I want to go back to, welcome back. I want to go back to what you were saying with, AI being a language learning model, which it is, and what that means. So go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. Before that happened, as Iris said, usually there's something we have it on her sheet.
Ryan,
this time it was on me. It was on me. But either way, well, it's a language learning model, and the point I was getting to is that I think that it's, it's obviously never going to be completely human, at least not yet. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We're way ahead of that. We're a long ways from that. But what we put into it is what it cranks out, which kind of goes into why, what you were teaching your model to be able to do makes a lot of sense based off of your learned knowledge and kind of, as I like to call it, architect in the loop scenario, human in the loop scenario to make sure that AI makes sense. Right. And so I was like, I was kind of just wondering how you felt about that and how you feel that really on that connection, where that's coming from, and how, will it transfer over? Will that eventually those two sides of life start to truly intersect, and using this technology, because pretty much most people are going to have to, if they're going to use it to run their AI agents, run their business, send their emails, it's eventually going to build some type of humanity for each individual at some point. And so where do you feel that? Where's the border and the boundary on that? Where should we stop and where should we keep going, I guess would be my question.
Well, I mean, there's a couple layers here. I feel that the science and the technology will always be ahead of policies, and governments always behind in technology. And so it will develop in many, many ways. I feel like one of the biggest, there's a couple things that I see with AI that are just going to transform the world in a massive, massive way. Number one, I feel like this version that we're using right now, this is nothing. In 10, 15 years, there's going to be like, take what we have times 100.
Like I'm going to say 4 years from now, 3 years from now. Yeah.
Massive leap. With that, it's going to come something that is very much of interest to me in the communication aspect. I really feel like we are very soon to communicate with pets in a language, animals.
Please, God, so I can understand what these guys are saying. That'd be amazing.
But also with spirits, with our ancestors that are on the other side. And also the other thing that has become clear to me in my visions is, okay, let's just say we're more or less in the same age range here. People our age, this lifetime, this is going to get us to 120, 130 years old. Yeah. People that are in their 20s today, I really see them living until 200 years old. With the progress of medicine, with the progress of, it's not just AI, it's science using AI, but not just aging pretty well at that age. But I came to this conclusion in my visions. What I also know is that even us getting to 120, 130 years old, or young people today getting to 200 years old, by default, this is going to change our relationship with money. Because, I mean, if we live up until that, where's the money is going to come from? Mm-hmm. We're going to need massive gains in productivity. And those gains in productivity is going to have to come from AI that is going to be working for us so that we can live to 200 years old. So I'm just going to leave that because it's changing our whole perspective. And we are going to see this in our extended lifetime.
Mm-hmm. We're going to see that in the next 10 years, I believe, honestly. Yes. Because, I mean,
and not before, which means I have another, and what I find really interesting with that, gosh, I just said, gosh, that's really interesting. But what I find so interesting about that is, I'm working with a sound healer and, my guides are like, you're going to be here a really long time. There's something that I'm going to be inventing and, whatever. And, but when I look around, and I think this is what concerns me. We can talk about your YouTube because that's what this has to do with in a way. But, I look around and it's like, this isn't my reality. It's not my reality. Because I look at it and I see everything that's going on. And Kofi, your experience is and I know it's different than mine because I always talk about when asshole pulled me over as soon as you got in the car because you were a tall black man. He wouldn't be getting in my fucking car if I didn't want him in my car. I mean, it was just like this whole thing. But the point, is that with the way things are going now, politically, and I say that that's not my reality, I really feel removed in a sense of there's a bunch of scary shit happening, right? We have Nazis walking around with flags, no problem, not even thinking twice about it because we have somebody who says that it's okay to do that. But there's also that oil and water and the oil rising to the top so that you can clean it off because what's happening now is every little fucking bug is coming out from under the rock.
And it's we're coming to the end of this. This is just a very temporary situation. There's a big cleanup that's also happening with all of this. And so you just can picture how everything's going to change with this life extension and the use of technology, our relationship with money. I also want to talk about another aspect is our relationships, human relationships, our friendships, our romantic relationships. Do you want to be married for 150 years with the same person? I mean, those are
I found my soulmate, so absolutely.
But maybe not everyone wants to be
right. I get that
for that long
for me,
time.
I'm going on right.
It is also an interesting on how unions and relationships and even friendships evolve over time. And so as a community, and even as a business, because if you live younger, your business will possibly be longer. And so you have to think of a business not making money every single day, but for a long term that's so much more sustainable. And if you live to 200 years old, that means that you need to care more about the planet, because today, frankly, a lot of people don't care because they're like, well, I'll be dead. So you know what? If the temperature rise, who cares? Yeah. And so it is changing our perspective entirely at all levels. Relationships, money, the environment, sustainability becomes a lot bigger.
Well, I mean, this is this is the AI industrial revolution. Mm-hmm. It's exactly what we're living in.
So you, Kofi, created your avatar, because I want to talk about that.
Yeah,
100%. Well, just for the exact same reason why Nate was talking about this, right? At some point in time, you're going to have to continue to be productive in a certain way, or you might want to be productive in a certain way without having to be in the place where you might want to be or need to be at a certain time, which kind of goes why this AI revolution is going to be so important for most people. But most people are going to miss out. I honestly say, unless you are a plumber, somebody that works their hands, construction, any of those type of businesses, you're getting ready to get X'd out of the game plan here in about 4 to 8 years. So if you're going to
even people with their hands, robotics can.
I think with advancements, and I've done a lot of research on robotics, and you see people losing their jobs now at this point. But I think a lot of these businesses like Amazon, like places that have warehouses, they're going to automate stuff, but the job that's going to still be there is people that know how to fix the robots, right? So everybody's going to have to get retooled, retrained on things like that have to do in the physical world. So those are the type of jobs I think that will stay. You're a massage therapist. Most people are still going to want a person. Like you, Nate, someone still wants to talk to a person a lot of times when it comes to this. Now, at least people of our age, right? But I also think this is the thing that us a little bit older aren't thinking about, is that the younger generation, the people in their 20s, 30s, even kids now in schools, they have already transferred into using ChatGPT, using Gemini, using Claude as their learning models inside the schools, which will probably no longer exist in about 15 years. So when I say that we are living in a new revolution of everything, it is all completely changing. And we're hitting this binary shift, and we're right here in the middle of it right now, where you can either not adopt AI or you adopt it and find which way it's going to work best, to solve whatever issue you have. Like, for instance, Iris and I, we're trying to solve people's time bottlenecks, right? Where we're helping them create their content and create their stuff and do their marketing for them so they have time to go live their life, right? Or to do the thing that they love. Everyone's going to have to find that usage of AI of where can you take your expertise, bring it into whatever you do to help other people achieve what they really want to do. And I think the biggest thing is everyone's looking at AI as a tool instead of looking at AI as your extension of what you can do to help others. And as soon as we can figure that out and everybody's on board, our governments seem not to be on board all the way on some of them. We're not going to name any names, but that's kind of how, I'm starting to see how this is going. And like you said, Nate, I think it's all going to change. And as Iris has said 100 times, it's about people. It's still going to be about relationships. Yeah. It's just the question is, will your AI start having their own relationships too? And that's where stuff's going to get kind of crazy.
And see, that's where I get I feel like the devil's advocate for human versus machine, right? Because I read somewhere, and I use this, and I'm sorry I can't credit you because I don't remember where the hell I read it, but the human experience has grit. AI doesn't have grit, and I don't give a shit how much of you put into AI. It has never lived your life. It has never gone through your trials and tribulations. It has never gone through your human experience. So it can never have that. It will never have that realness to it. There's always going to be an element of that's not real. Why do I say that? Because I had to write an essay. I'm going to get teary about Sister Amy. I didn't have to. They were like, who was somebody who impacted your life, right? And impacted the way that you lead. And it was Sister Amy. So when I type, it's very robotic. So I dictated it into Word. I said, okay, I'm going to dictate this essay. And I did. And I said everything that I wanted to. And I went back and I, corrected certain things because, of course, dictation gets words wrong. And then I dropped it into Claude and I said, do not change anything. The only thing that I want you to do is change the punctuation because my grammar sucks. So, it doesn't suck, but when I'm typing and I'm doing quickly, right? So that's all it changed. And it kicked out exactly I read it to make sure, then I looked at the Word doc and and it was exactly what I wrote and I submitted it and I won. And I'm not saying this because I won. I'm saying it because my lived experience was in there. If I would have said, hey, Claude, I have to write this essay about this woman who meant so much to me, and she's affected the way that I lead and the way that I think about leading and the way that my blah, blah, blah. Claude would have popped something out. ChatGPT, whoever would have popped something out, but it wouldn't have had my experience behind it. It wouldn't have had my love for the person behind it. And I think that that's where the rubber meets the road and where the differences are, because it's garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you put in there, it's going to kick out, right? But
It's called
it's
AI slop.
never right. But it's never going to replace that the humanity. And so, even look at Terminator, right?
Well, I mean,
That shit look real, but
I'm gonna play devil's advocate with you too, though, Iris, here on this one. You say never. Now it can't. That's the interesting part about all this is now it can't. But once again, it's a learning model. So the more you speak to it, the more it's learning you. And that's kind of that's the interesting part about a lot of this. And that's what, I'm glad that's why we're having this conversation, because I think that everything that we fundamentally think we know, is going to change.
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
We're going to have to redefine what is humanity. Like some stuff we used to think about when we watched Star Trek and those things that we used to think that we were discovering then. We are literally we're in the next 20 years. I'm sure Nate, I can't wait to hear Nate's predictions here, because something tells me that they're going to be great. But we can't say it can't be. What is humanity? What's authentic? Is it authentic? What we call authentic is not the same thing that the young people call authentic. And they're the ones that are literally going to be going through this and hit it when it hits full scale. So what all do we, it's just such an interesting time. We can question ourselves all day about it. And I would love to hear what Nate has to think about, where this kind of lies. Cause this is, but you're not wrong right now, Iris, you're 100% right. If you're not putting in thoughtful, full-fledged feeling behind it, it can't recreate it.
Right. And, for like a business model, which is why I'm teaching people how to use AI to get that message, and then use that message throughout their organization so that there's like one through line. But when I think of like people starting businesses now, holy shit, how lucky are they? Because if I have to write a big ass proposal, it used to take me 10 hours to sit there and get every freaking little thing in. Now I just go, here's my proposal. Here's a template for big ass clients. Here's a template for small businesses, right? Yeah. And I do everything in my client, because for me, and you know this, and Nate, you know this too, my client comes first. So my proposals aren't in my brand colors. Everything is in my client's brand color. Everything is right. So I have a template in there, and there's certain things that are similar and other things that are going to change depending on the project, because everything we do is customized. So, but now all I have to do is go, okay, here's where the customization is. Here's how much this is. Here's how long, this proposal would be for. Here's blah, 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 blah. 45 minutes later, bam, it kicks it out. And then I look at it and I'm like, okay, the layout's kind of messed up. Let's reword this. This is kind of jumbled here. Within 2 hours, a 10-hour proposal is done. For a larger corporation, right, or a larger organization where it's like a 30-page proposal, which I used to look at and want to throw up, because I'm like, who the fuck am I going to pay to write this? Because that is not what I do. I don't have to. I literally go, okay, here's the RFP. Here's the RFP. Here's our capabilities. Here's my numbers. Boom. And it pops it out. And it's amazing. And so where would we have been, Kof, right? Like 10 years ago, when I first started this, with Lee, and you were doing certain things for us, right? That was like a whole nother story, but we won't go there. But if proposals could, like, how much quicker would have things grown, and how much? And so I look at the capability now, and it blows my mind. It blows my mind, because the tools that are available now, and that's the other thing. And Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you use it as a replacement rather than a tool, rather than enhancement, rather than
enhancement,
right? So then I think you're using it unethically. Like if you use it to where it's like, so what you're doing, Nathe, is different. You're making an avatar so that people can afford to get a reading from you in some fashion, right? Because a lot of the stuff where it's going to be different, it's going to be the same because they're going to be asking similar questions. So, but when I look at the other stuff, like I'll brainstorm with Claude. I will sit there. I had an issue last week, and Heather thought, she's like, who are you on the phone with? I was like, oh, I'm talking to Claude. because it was like,
you too. I get my Heather says the same thing. Like, you spend more time talking to your Gemini than you talk to anybody I've ever heard. I'm like, well, I'm brainstorming over here.
You know, and
the site we talked a couple of weeks ago. Something that to me is very interesting is I feel to analyze conversations, meetings, group dynamics, family dynamics. Even I went into some family dynamics, issues, and providing kind of a transcripts even of some conversation, or descripting some of the facts of what happened and when, and just basically almost like a therapist telling AI, what do you make of this interaction, and what are the dynamics between those people, and not who's in the right, who's in the wrong, but what do you observe when you read those, what comes to light, and what are the possible ways to resolve this conflict. And I think it's like technology meets psychology, and
yes.
Giving you ways to resolve potential conflicts between people, rather than we have a tendency as humans to stay in character and keep doing the same thing in our interaction, hope for a different result. And so maybe getting feedback from AI and say, what if you approach this conversation a different way?
Yes, which we talked about. I had an issue that I was dealing with. And for me, I tend to be a little too kind. And, I'm working with somebody who's helping me assess the business and kind of look at certain things. And I had to step into the leadership role, which for me was like, holy shit, I thought I was, but apparently I've been managing, right? When I started leading, people were really uncomfortable with it because we're not used to you calling us out on our shit. We're not used to you this, right? But I also had to find a way to where I was doing it, but coming from a place of empathy, because I have had so many horrible bosses that I vowed, and I mean, Kofi can attest, she knows half of them, right? Oh, yeah. I vowed that I would never, ever, ever make anybody who does any kind of work for me, whether they're a contractor, whether they're employee, whatever, I will never make anybody feel like that. So I was really pissed about something, and Nathe, both of you guys know me, right? So, and Heather calls me like Donji. She's like, did Donji come out? I'm like, no, Donji didn't come out. I kind of, but what I did was I dropped how pissed I was into Claude. And I was like, mother, blah, 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 and it said, great. I understand your frustration. This is how you may want to handle it. And it popped out how me not pissed off would be able to do it. And it takes me a day to sit with something. Like if something happens, what I've found out about myself with the help of Mara Whitener is freaking amazing. I used to be very reactive. Something would happen and I would have to react immediately. So I had to get it out, like, fuck you, whatever, right? And now I look at it and go, okay. And I still say, fuck you, or whatever, right? But not to them. I get it out, and then I sit with it for a day. And the next day I feel completely different than I did in that moment. And realizing that was such a wake-up call for me, so that I don't have to depend on Claude for that now, right? Because I've been able to train myself to not have that instant reaction, or if I have that instant reaction, how do I quell it? Thank you, Diane, Titterton, for mindfulness, right? Because that's where so I look at all of the tools that I use. Nathe for making really important decisions, or not making them important, right? Like, do this or don't do this. I have Diane for mindfulness, to where it really helps me stay even when I'm really angry, right? I have Kof. You and I go back and forth on our stuff, right? So we talk about our marketing.
Each other for
I
20 some
want to get
years.
to you.
So
20, right.
Yeah, so we always we yell at each other like we're brother and sister. So
Oh yeah, you yelled at me that one time. I was like, "What?"
We just do. We just argue like that in general because we know each other. We're friends. We're that deep.
We
But
love each
go
other.
ahead,
I mean,
Iris.
it is, right? But then I look at what AI does, and what AI can do is, I am in that moment and I am pissed, so I get it out, and it will be like, okay, right? So it evens that out.
Yeah.
It also helps me look at that other person, because when I'm in that moment, right? And it's like, okay, great. And I said, I'm pissed. This is my side. This is their side. Because I put their side in two.
Yeah.
Where's that happy medium? And then it helps me look at their side. And there was one thing that they were like 100% wrong. 100% wrong. And they were like, you are 100% correct feeling like this. However,
how do you bridge this situation? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And and that's why I say it's a great mediator. I don't think there's going to be two people in a room and AI is going to be like, okay, and Nathe, how are you feeling? And Iris, how are you feeling about this? And Kofi, how are you? I don't think we're going to get there, at least not right now. I think maybe
what if you get a judge, using, it has already infiltrated the courts.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
They're actually,
like, what do you
actually, first of all, attorneys using AI defending their clients in court. You have judge using AI to make decisions. Yes.
And that's another scary kind of whole thing with this, right? Because
I was years old when I found out. Holy shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And this is the thing, is that once again, it's what we put in on what it's going to come out, right? Because all the data and information, a lot of it is biased still at this point. The beauty of everybody actually starting to contribute to the system, if everyone actually does, the AI and the actual full database of this, even culturally, because all the models are trained on somewhat different information. As we grow, it's going to learn, and it's going to get rid of some of the bias outside of maybe it doesn't like any of us at all.
Well, there is a bias today because the people using it are not a reflection of the world society or the American society. So that bias already exists.
Oh, because because we're looking at it from our. Oh, yeah.
Yes. So that's the other part, and this is where that humanity.
Global, and we're just looking at it as here, but what's happening around the world? Oh, Jesus!
I saw an interesting statistic the other day.
Important conversation.
Yeah,
we have to have part two of this.
Oh well, we could talk about each topic of this.
Yes,
so.
I know.
The
other part, I really want to mention something to me that's very important and a big concern with AI is the environmental aspect.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And so how do we...
It worries me because I don't know the exact numbers, but I believe a basic query could be like half a gallon of water per query.
Yeah.
It's massive. Those data centers, wherever you look at data centers.
We have one here in Indiana, and they're like freaking out because it's
15 degrees.
Yeah.
And the use of water, and water is a finite resource. And so that is the part that worries me the most, because we don't have a solution for that. And so we have in a lot of our discussions
I'll
here.
bet that's why they're going to the moon, because they found ice on the moon that can turn into, everything just clicks for me now. Oh my God, I just got like, what?
Well, we're going to need new
Holy
space. And that was kind of part of my predictions, is that at the end of this whole revolution, the notion of time and space won't exist anymore.
Exactly.
It doesn't, to be frankly,
like exactly. And I'm sitting here, I'm like,
it doesn't exist today. It doesn't exist today. I can prove to you that time doesn't exist. I can prove it. You want me to prove it?
Go ahead, because I have an hour and a half to be in downtown to get my lead.
It's very simple. The notion of time is so subjective. We've just been talking for an hour almost together. So that hour we've just been talking together versus doing an hour the dishes, I can tell you that those 2 hours are not the same. They don't feel the same. They're not the same. So that notion of time is completely subjective anyway, and time is a human creation. That's all it is. But if you look spiritually, it doesn't exist, because we are there's. First of all, I don't believe.
So when you're telling me delays, can we change that and make it, that's not time? It's not delayed.
Actually, even what I said earlier, we live until 200 years old or 120. It doesn't even matter, because we never. The notion of living and dying doesn't really exist. Our soul and spirits is always there.
Yeah.
So time won't exist. Space won't exist. There are certain things that do exist today that our eyes can't see. There's dimensions. I can tell you stories of dimensions that do exist, that I know that are objects that are around us that we can't see. Some of the things we lose, we haven't lost them. They're in a different dimension. When Native Americans saw Christopher Columbus arrived, their eyes couldn't comprehend that there will be someone coming from the sea to the land. And it's been explained and reported scientifically that their eyes couldn't see them, because our eyes can only see what our mind can comprehend. But there's a lot more to see. So what we see right now is maybe 15%, 20% of what is truly there around us. So AI is going to blow that up. Like everything's going to appear. The dimensions we didn't know, the time we didn't know, communications we didn't know, all of these is going to open in a way that most people don't expect.
Yeah, this is a fundamental. Once again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. We are living in the fundamental change of humanity, period. For instance, just even the other day, quantum computers figured out how to hack the blockchain. Just think about if quantum computers or AI is being used, is connected to a quantum computer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which we're not far away from.
Piper just let out you couldn't hear her, but Piper just went.
Yeah.
It is very possible that we can expand her life also the same way we expand our life.
I know. That means you have to be a good girl forever instead of being crazy. But so, one of the, I keep saying one of the things, and it's not, there's just, we have to be talking in part 2 and part 3.
Iris, we could have this conversation in 100 years together, the three of us.
Yes.
That would be okay. So for time capsule's sake, it is Thursday, April 2nd, 2026 at 1:01, of course, 1:01 p.m. And let's see where in 21-26 it is, because I look at
Well, Iris, before you say anything else, you need to make sure you get your digital avatar together, because then if we're not still
we need
sitting
to talk
here,
about that. So we need to. So Kofi does this thing, right?
Avatars will be able to talk, and yours won't unless you create yours. So,
well, you have to help me create mine. So you're going to help me create mine.
And a side note, while all of this is happening today, we're worried about oil.
Yeah,
we're not worried about fucking oil. Somebody else is worried about oil.
I'm
just saying,
people are worried about oil.
And I mean,
we're so away. We're so disconnected from taking from helping ourselves move forward, because our government. It's not even a discussion about party. It's about the thinking process of our politicians and government. Doesn't matter where they come from. They're all in old framework and matrix. All of them, they go to the same school, the same thinking. It doesn't really, one could argue that it does matter. It does matter. But in a bigger picture, it doesn't matter, because they're not capable to comprehend what's going to happen. That's a bit scary.
Actually, I think that they're more so worried about all of them losing the power and influence.
Yes.
Not necessarily.
It's all a power grab. But I think that the issue with the power grab is there are way more of us than them.
Well, and also look at this trend too. This is also, that goes with the AI revolution. We're moving away from collective to individual. Big companies versus small individual entrepreneurs.
Yep.
Well, we're going to have to.
All the big structure. Yes.
Well, and the entrepreneurs.
And Kofi mentioned the industrial revolution. With this industrial revolution, step one, we became a slave of our own selves, and we unslave ourselves from this whole mess that we created.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Right. And so as entrepreneurs, right? So my goal is to help other entrepreneurs build something that's going to last them and help them grow and help them hire people that can put food on their tables and put money into our communities, because this is where we make the difference. We can't do shit about what Washington or whoever the hell is doing, right? We can't do anything about that. We can do something about here. Yep. And I think that is the mindset that people need to get into. And with all of this divisiveness, it's so freaking hard for people to realize that we're in the same fucking community. I was talking to a guy yesterday, Andy, he's awesome. He's going to be fixing my fence. We met last year. He's conservative. You know, he's like, I don't care if you're gay, black, you could be a purple people leader for all I care. He goes, I don't give a shit. He goes, just don't, he goes, I have my beliefs. Don't put your beliefs on me, and I'm good. And I kind of feel the same way. I kind of feel like, to me, the only thing that I have an issue with politics is this giant cover up going on right now with the Epstein files. I will never get over that until that's taken care of, because it's
part of the same thing. It's the destruction of
it is the destruction, but it's like every other country is doing something about it, right? Yes. All their leaders are getting taken out of their leadership roles because they're a bunch of fucking perverts, and ours is covering it up. And it's like, where does that? And Nate, I'm sure because you have like these predictions, but where does that go? Woo, okay. So the rest of the world is taking care of theirs. We're not taking care of ours. How do we take care of ours? Because at the end of the day, I always go back to this. In 2020, in 2016, when the Democrats' emails were all exposed, another party's weren't. And that was the leverage that I believe that everybody had. And that's why the mess is what it is. But if we can, as community members, like Andy and I were talking, it's like we all want the same thing, right? They want their kids to grow up safe. They want their kids to grow up educated. Because right now, America is producing a shit ton of dummies. I think we're on one of the lowest, learning education. But I guess my point, we have so much potential, and we're just not realizing it because of all of the noise.
Well, the noise is the corruption.
Right. So how do we stop the noise so that we can live our potential? I think that's just where I'm...
And reinventing we're at the point where we have to reinvent the democracy. We say we live in a democracy, but we're not.
No. Never have.
We're not. So that's what we have to get back to, which is what I was saying earlier, is like big structure, big corporation, big governments have taken away our power.
Which is why we have to take that back.
We all lost our power. If you have the money, if you have the power, you make all the decisions for us. We have no say. Yes, we can vote, but it's like our vote is going to bring this level of corruption of this level of corruption.
So it's like the devil you know rather than the devil you don't.
Because I believe that between those two, there's one side that tends to be more on your side than the other. But it's not quite right either.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna since this is an AI podcast discussion, I don't want to scare anybody, but I want to try to think as we're talking in the future, everyone watching, listening to this podcast this is why we need to be very responsible and accountable for the stuff that we are feeding the model, right? Because what we're feeding the model is it's learning. If we start feeding the model positivity, inequality, and things like that, then the models that are going to be used in our future for your children, your grandchildren, the people, everyone that's going to be involved later, that's what it's going to learn. Everyone's doom and gloom because they're waiting for Terminator to happen. Well, Terminator happened because they realized in the 80s that everybody just wanted to bomb and war each other. Every kind of science fiction movie where you see the robots take over, what is it? What's their reason? Because we're bombing and we're blowing each other up anyway. So they said we might as well get rid of them. So when you think about all this, even our governments, even, the tech companies, the scarier part is, at least in the United States, since the tech companies are going to become the next states, the next provinces, the next things like that. If we don't, as the people, don't hold them accountable and be accountable ourselves on how we're using AI, how we're implementing AI, and how we're teaching our younger people how to use it as an extension of them, not as a tool.
Ethically, that's the key, is ethics.
Yes.
And this is true with the media too, because now all the mainstream media is completely corrupted as well.
Oh my God, it's horrible.
The same transition from big corporation, big companies, big government media to, since I've been on YouTube, it's been 1 year. I can't tell you the number of YouTube channels and information and people talking to people on a one-on-one basis, on a community basis. It's a revolution.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's get into, because of course we're over an hour. This is going to go a little while and I got to get my butt going, but let's talk about your predictions.
Well, I kind of leaked already quite a few of them. I was talking about, our longevity, the massive changes that's going to be in healthcare. We're looking at a lot of synthetic organs that are going to be. So if you need a transplant, it will be kind of a synthetic transplant. Communication with animals, communication with anything living, communication with a tree.
I hug my tree as soon as I can.
Yes, communication with anything living, because obviously now you've seen all those AI, reels or people speaking in Japanese, in Chinese, in Mandarin, and you think that they actually, so that we've already crossed that bridge. But I'm talking communication with the dead, communication with animals, communication with anything living. We're also gonna see basically AI as a personal assistant for your whole life. So basically doing all the different jobs, but at your fingertips. Definitely what I see in business, the transformation in businesses. I think pretty much everyone's going to have their own business per se. Even if you're an employee, it's going to be a business.
Mm-hmm. You're going to have to.
Yes.
Every person has to be an entrepreneur here in the next.
Because guess what? Years. Like if you work for a big company today, they're not saying it, but 90% of them are using AI to do their job. So at some point, we're just going to say, well, let's just admit it. You see also the transformation in education, where it's already happening in China, where they actually not being educated on the content of the body of knowledge, but educating on how to use AI. You mentioned that a bit earlier, Kofi. Healthcare, I also said time and space, like the notion of time and space. Those are some of the, and obviously, last but not least, new forms of government and new forms of democracy. Like think about voting.
Well,
and how basically will we need representatives? Why would we need representatives?
And they really don't represent us.
They don't. So we could do with AI a vote every single minute, every single hour of the day on how the city, which is our country, our town, our community, and lets us vote on a live basis. So I also feel like we're not going to have representatives. I don't want representatives. They have failed us.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, the whole idea of representatives came from a time when people couldn't read or write.
Right.
And then they didn't have the technology to, so we needed representative because obviously, I mean, think about, the creation of the US and obviously it taking so long for communication to arrive and they need a meeting place and the logistics of it. But why do we need representatives? When do we need Congress?
Yeah. I mean, I thought, obviously we thought the model.
And it costs so much money too.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey. Okay. On that note, stay tuned for part 2 of this in season 7. This is season 6. Yeah. We're gonna revisit this in September or October. Right before the midterms. Ooh, or after before or after. Okay. Quick prediction on that, and then I'm going to end. But quick prediction on the midterms.
Well, I clearly see the House completely blue, like a big. But even though on paper the Senate feels like it's going to be Democratic, I'm not seeing it in my visions or cards. And so I have told publicly, and this is what I'm saying today, I don't know about the Senate. The energy around the Senate feels weird. I know logically, like it's getting better and better from that standpoint, but I'm not seeing it. I'm holding it. I can also tell you 2028, I don't know who, but I see a male president and female vice president.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you're optimistic about the midterm elections, but I'll be honest with you, I don't trust either side of them, so I don't care which color they are, as long as they do what's right.
I care about blue because they don't want me dead. I'm sorry, and they don't want you hung. When I look at it,
not some of them. I guess I'm going to the point of saying it this way, and I'm not. This is not necessarily a political thing. I think we've just finally got to the point where, once again, kind of like Nate was just talking about, I think we've hit the space and time, and where the technology, well, the space, because remember, there's no time, right, Nate? But the space, at least,
there's no space.
Yeah, no space. But the moments where we are going to have to decide on how we want our governments to work, because really at this point, with the corporations and things like that involved, we need to be thinking about how we're going to use these technologies that are coming to buy, and then this AI revolution on how we're going to go by creating this so people actually truly have a say. And there is no saying that yes, no, this and that, or, let's reroute this places because we want these people to vote and these votes count more. Everyone's vote actually fully counts. And once again, this goes back to what I've been kind of saying. We really need to start figuring out how to use these tools to help humanity and help us be better extensions of ourselves. And it's really that's the whole point of, I think, why this started to show up when it has. And I think that the world's going to have to wake up. There are some people that are going to have to understand that you are going to have to learn these things or adapt or fall behind, because every day you don't use it, you are losing 2 weeks as us that know it, because we change everything. We learn 2 weeks worth of stuff in a half a day.
Yeah.
So if you're behind and you're not using it every week, you're losing a month.
But I come across a lot of people that are against AI in the readings, in my connections. A lot of people are very, very much, I have to say it, a lot of people are very against. And I do a little bit of devil's advocate on both sides. I mean, one of the things it's also like amazing to see done with AI is there's been very little attention from pharmaceutical company or biotech company to those very rare diseases, just because too few people have them, and they don't want to put the money for 50 people, or 100 people. And so AI, and they actually dedicated AI resources to do research on those very rare diseases. And so, I mean, that's very uplifting when you think about it, because there are people, just because of lack of resources, that, unfortunately, they've been hit with such a rare disease that there's no finance sense to work on those rare diseases. And now there is. And so that to me means a lot, because every life is equal.
Oh, 100%.
Unfortunately, you got a disease that very few people have. You should still get the benefit from the science. And so it means really a lot for me.
Yeah. And I think that, not that I think, when, with the Artemis, space launch yesterday, one of the things they were talking about was taking samples of the astronauts' skin and blood, and then, how it was before they left, how it is when they're there, how it is when they're coming home, and then how it is when they're home. And I think that, they want to use all of that biotechnology, right, to be able to make our lives better. And that's where I think we're going to stop this, because we can go down this whole rabbit hole of biotechnology, and then all of the companies that are going to be running it, and then all of the other stuff. And so I definitely want to revisit this. But wow. So I'm going to ask each of you, first off, Nate, what's your YouTube channel?
It's called Nathe, The Third Wish.
Okay. Kofi, you're on LinkedIn. You're at socialflyway.com. You're my right hand guy, like forever. You make this thing look amazing. You make me look amazing. And I appreciate you more than anything. So,
well, with that being said, too, before we leave, and I want to thank you, Iris, for letting me be a part of this. And Nate, thank you for being on the podcast, because this is our 150th episode.
Whoa!
And this
has
been a fantastic conversation. So thank you, Iris, for letting me be here to help you through 150 episodes.
I feel like it's my birthday. I feel.
We're 150 years old. That we will celebrate your birthday.
Yeah, well, yes, but 100, and you're on my 150th episode. Like how? And I'm all for Klimt. Okay, that's just like on Passover. I'm all for Klimt. All right.
And so yes,
before
this
we
is
end,
fantastic.
that's
And thank you
amazing.
for having me on this episode as well, Iris.
Well,
Thank you.
hell, I didn't know it was 150. Thank you for keeping that for me until the end, because that's such a huge, wow, milestone. And it's, I'm a little emotional because when this thing started, I had no idea. I can't believe I'm going to cry on here, but I had no idea what this was going to be. And the fact that like two of my favorite people are on my 150, this is like amazing. So thank you for getting me to 150 episodes, Kof.
You're
We
welcome.
did this together. This wasn't a me thing. This was a combined effort, so thank you. Okay. Nathe, before we go, what lights your fire?
Oh, anything divination, prediction, divination, connection with spirits, and all those weird divination tools, tea leaves, coffee readings, stones, crystals that you can use in different ways, shells that you read. Yeah, I mean, that's like cards, obviously.
Yeah. Kof?
Oh, what lights my fire? Number one, life. I'm glad that I'm been blessed to be still above ground to this long. Secondly, I really love my food. I really love all my food.
It does.
And I love my trading cards. And and lastly, I love to learn, and I'm a hands-on learner, and I like to jump in and learn how to do things as many things as I can to feel so that I can feel like that I can help as many people as I can.
And you do.
And so that's what lights my fire.
All right, I'm going to say goodbye, and I will be back. Really quick, what lights my fire is this. Holy shit, 150 episodes. Like I'm just floored. Thank you. Each and every one of you out there that has listened, not downloaded, subscribed, not subscribed, commented, not commented, anybody who has had any piece or part of this, from the bottom of my heart and my soul, thank you for letting me continue to do this. Because my mind is blown right now. 150 episodes. That's thanks to you all. Because without you all, it doesn't matter if I do this. So thank each and every one of you. I truly, truly appreciate you all. And I'm just going to say, hell, until next time, really go out and find what lights your fire. Thanks again. Bye.